part 2 of my free cabinet makeover. So if you watched part 1, you may remember that the first thing I did was I basically sanded lightly all over and I gave it some gel stain, right? So I did that to the carcass and to the doors, which I'm redoing brand new. I actually gave them a different kind of gel stain. So part 2 is going to be, first of all, putting new legs on. Again, you saw last time, I basically chopped off, it kind of had like an apron almost kind of situation. So I don't want to put these legs on, which I think will kind of modernize it a lot. I've used them before and I like them. They work really well for me. They're kind of brass legs and they were pretty affordable in Amazon. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. I also see here that apparently they felt this cabinet needed a metal support. And I believe that, yeah, the legs are going to be slightly taller, so I may have to come up with a new support that would work, because that one is not going to work now. So that's number 2. Number 3 is going to be to work on the doors. I already have them cut, shaped, and stained. I think I have to stain the other side still. And then I'm going to do that stenciling. That's kind of the fun part. So if you want to see how it all turns out, stay tuned. Okay, one of the things that I need to do to finish these doors is actually to put the edge banding. I was kind of up and down about it, but as I'm seeing it now, I think I better do it, because I think otherwise it's very obvious that it's plywood, doesn't look as finished. So this is some real wood edge veneering. The instructions are in the back and it's super easy. You just iron it on and then trim it out. So that's all I gotta do with it. So let's take a look. Okay, so let's first, it says to kind of measure the area that you're going to be using it on, and you can burnish it with either a roller or a piece of wood. So I have a lot of scrap of wood, so I'm going to use that. So as you can see, it's just basically a piece of very thin wood. And you want to have your iron on the cotton setting, which usually is kind of the hottest setting. If it isn't mine, it's the hottest setting. And it's just to do like a 1/2 inch more than you need. That way there's any mistake. Imagine it's just like a 1/2 inch on each side. Figuring out what's the best tool to trim it now. Okay, now I've got all 3 doors banded with the edge banding on all 4 sides. And now I'm going to sand them a little bit, make sure that the edges are smooth. And I'm also going to sand this side, because as you could see from the other side, the stain kind of got on it, and I want to make sure it doesn't look weird, you know, when I stain it on this side. Here we go. Okay, so I already sanded all the edging, and I sanded also the back to make sure that that dried up stain doesn't show through. Fingers crossed that I did enough. So, and I cleaned off all the sawdust, so now it's time to stain the back and the sides. This is the walnut. Double check I got the right one. You can see I'm gonna have a lot left of this one. You can see that the white side stains very differently than the other side, the more yellow side. One of the things I still have to decide is whether, you know, which side do I like better? It's for it to be the front. I have to put extra on this side to make it kind of match the other side a little bit more. We'll see which one I end up liking better. Okay, well, hi everyone. So now we are back onto this project. So the thing to do today that I'm trying to accomplish is to put the legs on. These are the new legs that I got. These are like this kind of brass legs. And I already cut the bottom off. And I actually have to trim it because I have not done a very good job at it. So I had to trim it again, make sure that I measured everywhere and that it worked out. So putting on the legs is gonna be my first step. I need to figure out a way to extend this little support in the middle somehow so that it kind of matches the height of the other ones, because otherwise it doesn't do much. So anyway, so let's put on the legs first and let's figure out what I can do to attach to this, okay? Let's get going with that. Okay, I'm gonna use these screws which I had, but kind of nice because they have like a nice wide head. So it almost acts like almost like if you had a washer. The only thing to be real careful is I want this to be really flush, and I see that it has a bit of a shape to it. So that's gonna be the tricky part here, making it flush properly. I might use some tape too to make sure that it stays put after I align it. And these screws tend to be self-drilling, I hope so. I hope that works out. Let me see. Okay, so I use my long level, and I figure that for this to be level from here to here, this is how much I need to kind of add to this leg. So I'm going to make two of these, cut two the same, and that should actually fill this little way perfectly. And then I think I'm going to glue it, and I'm really debating whether I really want to bother with the pocket screw or not. I know that the glue is going to do most of the work. But anyway, that's the fix. Okay, I finished putting the legs. Look how that alone makes such a difference in terms of the look and feel of this cabinet. I put the drawers back. I still have to put the dividers inside, of course, my new doors. Of course, you know, I messed it up by all my turning it around, but nothing that I can't be fixed. I'll give it a light sanding and go over everything that might need to be touched up. But I'm pretty happy with how the legs look. There's just something about that dark color of the brass that looks really high-end. Okay, so let's continue with those doors. Okay, so now we're up to the part I've been most excited about, which is of course doing my stenciling. At the same time, I'm a little worried because you never know how these things turn out when you've never done it before. So one of the things that I wanted to make sure is I wanted my design to kind of flow from one door to the other, right? But at the same time, as you know, usually doors don't completely butt against each other because they don't function very well. They have to at least have 1/8 of an inch or so. So I'm trying to figure out how to keep them kind of where they need to be. I kind of figure out that, you know, that I'm going to definitely use this side, and I'm going to call it not the greatest side. It was too much sanding here and it doesn't look great, but I'm hoping that a lot of the stenciling happens there and I can cover it up. So I decided, you know, what's going to go on the top, what's going to go on the bottom. And then what I thought I would do is add some of these little pieces of this is actually like it's more than poster board. It's what do you call that? Matting board. Just to kind of keep that little division between the panels. Again, I might be making too much out of it. Might not be a big deal, but that's what the first thing I'm doing. At first, I had it kind of a little higher, and then I realized, oh, that's not gonna work because when I put my stencil, I want to be able to go, you know, through from door to door. And as you know, I already did a test, right? Let me show you what I'm doing with my test that I did already, which again, I'm not gonna be, you know, stuck to it because it's really hard to do that. but I just have it as a reference, just to remind myself kind of what I want it to look like, more or less. Let me show you that. So what I did is I have this curtain right across from my desk where I'll be doing the stenciling. So I basically just kind of pinned it on it. It's kind of nice to have it for pinning, I guess. I've never done that before either, but I think it would work. Again, just to give me a quick reference of kind of what the intent was in terms of where the leaves are going to go. But I think, I think the exercise of doing it was good enough. Now, the other thing to keep in mind when you're stenciling is, for instance, when I have two things overlapping, I probably cannot do that right away because I probably need to let one dry before I can do the other one on top. Otherwise, when I put the stencil, I'm going to risk smearing this one, right? So this is where my plan sort of helps, because I can maybe know that I'm going to put a few major elements, this far apart, and I know that those I can do without having, without smearing anything that's underneath. And then I can come back and kind of add the ones that I can as I go through. So that's the plan, that's the thought. Let's see how it works out. Okay, I'm trying to organize myself. So I've laid out all my stencils here. I don't know if you can see them because they're see-through. And then I got my plate. I'm going to put my paint in there. And I'm going to try to stencil it with like this little cosmetic sponges. And you know me, if it's, I'm going to try it out. And if it doesn't work, I'll try different methods until I find one that I like better. But that's how I do it, right? So I'm a little worried that, see, some of these ones are so open, getting me a little concerned. But when I used them before to make the paper template, I did it with pencil, and sometimes these things kind of fly, but that's a different thing going with a pencil than it is to pouncing with a sponge. Again, if it gives you too much trouble, I may get some spray adhesive. I kind of hate to do that sometimes because it is so messy, but I'm going to try without it and see what happens. And again, if it doesn't work, then we'll adjust the procedures. But that's what's coming next. Okay, I think I'm going to start with the left and work my way that way. So according to my template, this is kind of one of the first ones that I did. So fingers crossed this works out. And yes, I'm suiting up here with my apron and my gloves because I am a messy painter. Oh, and I forgot to tell you what kind of paint I'm going to use. I'm going to use my white chalk paint because I know that cuts through a lot, and I have very little of this left. So, but at the same time, we know that with chalk paint, you don't need a heck of a lot. A little bit goes a long way. Okay, I'm gonna try with the dry sponge first and see what happens. And I want to definitely load it off. Is that what I call it? Take a lot of it off as much as I can, just to be gentle with it. Okay, I should at least tape it, huh? Just taping it will work. It will help a lot, I think. Things not shifting around so much. Okay, here comes the moment of truth. It's okay, it's not perfect, but again, we can't have perfection. Always go over it later with I think the key is always to use less than you think you need, It's much better to use less. Okay, let's do this one here. Showing you here a close-up. I think that I did a little bit better with the second one. You can see that the first one is not perfect, but it's a little bit better on the second one. Again, the key is to have a lot less paint than you think you need. Let's keep going. Okay, so I've done a few, about 2 per door for right now. I have a lot more to go because, as you can see from my template, I actually want to do a lot of more overlapping. But I'm gonna let that dry for a little bit and then start kind of doing my overlaps and all that. So, but so far, you know, I'm pretty happy with it. I like it all white, and I don't mind if it has a little bit of kind of a lightness to it in certain parts. At first I thought I wanted it to be solid white because that's kind of how the inspiration is, but I don't know. I think it adds something when it has a little softness to it as well. So I'm noticing that the ones that have a lot of paint in them, I'm not liking as much because it's hard to get it even. So I probably won't use like that one so much anymore. I do like the wispy ones. I think look the best. And this one I didn't get to use in my paper template because it was gonna be a pain to do that on pencil. So, but I'm really liking the way it turns out. So I'm definitely gonna use that more than once. Okay, so let's keep at it. Hey, well, let me show you the finished product here. That's this is gonna stay. And then of course this is gonna get a coat of a finish. So that probably will change it a little bit, but I'll do that after, you know, I finish touching up the rest of the cabinet, then install the doors. I'll have to touch up all kinds of stuff, I'm sure, and then I'll be able to put the finishing on it. So anyway, so I think it came out the way I was expecting. Not too different from my paper kind of sample. So okay, well, let's see what the next step will be. Okay, now that their doors are done, now it's a matter of putting them on. I'm gonna use this hinge. This is like a conceal hinge, but I've never used this kind specifically before. I've used conceal hinges, but the kind that you have to kind of drill like a pocket inside the door. So you need like a very special Forstner bit for that. This one is meant for not having to do that. So I'm kind of excited to see how they work out. And I thought I bought them soft close, but I don't know. We'll see when I have them on. But it's always a little nerve-wracking with hinges and me. It's like I can never get them right on the first try. But I think I'm gonna put one here right under the drawer and then one kind of lower. So the big difference here is that they're not gonna have one going all the way to the top. So that's kind of part of the experimental situation here, because I cannot put one on top because of the drawer. So let's see how it goes. Okay, I'm gonna pre-drill the top hole and then put a screw, and then I'll take the tape off so I can see where I have to go for the next one. Well, change of plans. As much as I wanted to use these, I realized that this is not gonna work because, you know, the two things have to lay flat and mine have to do a little jog around this side support, right? It would have to be something like that, and these don't do that. So hopefully maybe I can use it somewhere else. So as much as I didn't want to just get regular, you know, little hinges because I didn't want to see the little spine, I think because of what I want to do, where I want the door to be so full and so close to each other, almost so it's continuous, I am gonna have to use these. At least I hope that works. So again, you know, you gotta pivot when things don't work out. So let's see if this one's work. I'm still a little worried about you know, the clearance when they open and things like that. Which is why European hinges are great at, because they kind of almost lift up. But I cannot use European hinges because they need to be drilled, and they usually need a 3/4 inch panel. And my panels are only 1/2 inch, because that way it would be flush with my top. So, you know, it's complicated. So, well, let's see what happens with these. Okay, well, hi everyone. Here back on trying to finish this cabinet, right? Well, true confession time. Do you remember when I said that I wasn't gonna put the edge banding on the doors or do the design yet because I needed to figure out the hinges first, right? In case I needed to cut it down. Well, I didn't listen to my own advice. And I should have, because I tried the first hinges that I thought were gonna work, and in my head had the problem solved and I didn't need to do that. So I realized those were not gonna work. I got some basic hinges now. Those are gonna work, but the issue is that you need to leave enough clearance for the doors to be able to hinge, right? So even though my doors are skinny, when you do this kind of thing, you know, the door needs at least that ½ inch. These ones are ½ inch doors. That ½ inch to be able to kind of fit in there. And even though I'm hinging one there, one here, one at the end, if I want it to look even, they really should have the same spacing in both places. Because yeah, I could get these two really close, but then here one near the gap, so that this one can hinge out. This one will hinge from here, so it's less of an issue, but you know what I mean? So basically, so I now already edge banded them and stained them, you know, and do the design, but I came up with a solution. You know, not everything is lost. For one, the hinges that I bought, that I couldn't use for this, I think I can use for the other cabinet, the buffet, the large one that I'm with the hutch that I'm doing across the way here. So that's okay there. I only bought one package too. So and I think that's enough for that one. And if I need more, then I'll order them separately. So what I'm gonna do, and I started installing them. You know, see this one is kind of already in there because I need to know. And you know, you kind of have to see things I've done before, especially when something you've never done before, you're not an expert on. For me, I need to see things before I can understand how they work. So, but again, I didn't even finish installing. I just put like one screw in each of the hinges so that they would stay put. But now I know that what I'm gonna do, instead of having no gap here and having this gap here, I'm gonna do it so there's a ½ inch gap in both places. Because remember, this cabinet never had 3 doors. This cabinet was designed for 2 doors. So they didn't have to deal with that issue, you know, like I do, you know, because they didn't need clearance. They only had 2 doors, they open, and the middle thing was open. So again, that's part of what the issue is too. When you're trying to kind of change the way the cabinet works, you're going to encounter things like this that were not part of the original design. But anyway, I think we can survive. And even though the design's already done, it looks like from what, you know, this, I didn't overlap this design too much. Let me get you closer to see what I'm talking about. Okay, so, yeah, as you can see, this design, I can probably get away with cutting, you know, a ½ inch there, and I won't really lose much of the design. But over here, I did overlap this too. So I'm not gonna cut off my ½ inch from here. I'm gonna cut it from the end, which is fine because I have plenty of room to cut it there. The same thing with this one. I'm gonna cut it off from that end, which is fine. I don't mind the leaves sort of running off the doors. So that's where I'm up to today. I'm gonna try to cut those down. So I'm gonna have to reband, do the edge banding again in those areas. And then I'm gonna have to stain it again. And then hopefully I can install them with no issues, but you never know. Stay tuned. Okay, so after measuring and remeasuring several times, I decided that this is gonna be the spacing on each side. It makes the most sense because again, this needs to be able to fit in there, and you always want to give it a little extra, maybe 1/8 of an inch, so it's almost there. So why play with fate? So it means that I'm gonna have to only cut one side, which is good. I don't have to cut this one both sides because here the patterns match a little bit more. Here I can get away with it. So I'm gonna cut this one straight here, then band it and stain it, and I think it's gonna end up being like here. I might be able to fake out the stencil and put it on top of this. You know, it's something to think about. We'll see how it looks, but the cut. So at least feel a little bit more confident about the cut now because I went around trying to make it the gap as small as possible, but it's really not worth it. It's better to keep it even and you know, and make sure the doors work properly. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I came up with this idea to make up for the fact that I don't have 6 hands. So I got my books here stacked trying to kind of match up to the top where it has to go. And so I know that I need a little bit more, but not the whole width of this book. So it's a book, so I can make it pages so that I can get right where I need to be. You know, if I need more pages, I just flip over and get more pages. Isn't that cute? We make some holes with my awl. Okay, I wanted to give you an update on how the cabinet's doing, what the next final steps are going to be. Since I had to kind of fit this doors, make sure they would fit under here, I had to sand this quite a bit, and I had to put a new edge banding. And then this is the door that I ended up cutting on one side. So this one's basically fits in the middle. It's a little smaller than the other two, but I think it'll be fine. And the same thing here. I had to kind of make sure that it would fit. So I already put this magnetic clasp. I'm gonna put one in each of them. And then I have a little pull here that I need to put as well. But before I do that, I need to kind of touch up on my stain. So that's gonna be the next step, to kind of touch up all the stain that I'm doing everywhere. Because, you know, when I'm sanding all this stuff, it got roughed up. And even this from just moving it around. So that's the next step. Okay, it's time now to do the final finish coat. And I'm gonna use this paste finishing wax. I've had it for a long time. It gives a really nice, subtle, kind of protective polish that is not very shiny at all. So let's do this part. Okay, here it is, all completed and in its place. All the finish, the paste wax is done. You can see the brass legs. I added the little pool here. It's in the middle of each. And then I did not do the inside. I just basically, well, except for the drawers, of course. And I have a magnetic clasp, as you can see right there. So this one. The one thing is that this one sticks out a little bit more than this one does. But I think it's the kind of thing that if you don't tell anybody, maybe nobody will notice. But I'm pretty happy with the finish. It feels really nice, that wax finish. And it has a bit of a shine, but it's not a whole lot. Oops. So anyway, so there you have it. I hope you love this transformation from drab to fab. In case you forgot what this cabinet used to look like, I thought I'd show you once again. So what do you guys think? Thanks so much for joining me on this cabinet transformation journey. I hope you also found some inspiration to go ahead and dare to try something new. Something that you've never done before. Until the next time.